He was mopping the cafeteria floor after the school's annual science night, a special evening event where students showed their projects to parents. Most families had already left, but about 60 people remained on the second floor, still packing up exhibits and chatting. The building was old, built in 1967, with wooden floors and narrow staircases. It was a fire trap waiting to happen. Bobby dropped his mop and ran toward the smell. The fire had started in the electrical room near the main staircase, sparked by faulty wiring that had been flagged for repair 3 times but never fixed. By the time Bobby reached it, flames were already climbing the walls, blocking the main exit. The second floor was cut off. Dozens of children and adults were trapped above an inferno that was spreading faster than anyone could have imagined. Bobby had a choice in that moment. The emergency exit near the cafeteria was clear. He could walk out, call 911 from outside, and wait for the fire department. It would have been the safe choice, the logical choice, the choice that would have let him see his daughter graduate college in 6 months. But Bobby didn't make that choice. Instead, he ran toward the stairs, grabbed the fire alarm, and pulled it with everything he had. Then he did something that firefighters would later call insane and suicidal. Something that would save 59 lives and cost him nearly everything. Bobby Chen ran into the burning building. Not once, 6 times. Welcome to another true hero story, where we explore the moments when ordinary people make extraordinary choices under impossible pressure. I'm your narrator, and today we're diving deep into the night, when a 52-year-old school janitor became the difference between a tragic news story and a miracle that still defies belief. Robert Bobby Chen wasn't a firefighter. He had no rescue training. He was a quiet, unassuming man who had worked the night shift at Lincoln Elementary in Portland, Oregon, for nearly 2 decades. Most people barely noticed him. Some didn't even know his name. But on one November night, Bobby proved that heroes don't wear capes or badges. Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms and carry keys to every door in the building. Before we continue, if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We bring you real stories of everyday courage every week. Stories that prove heroism isn't about strength or training. It's about the split-second decision to act when everyone else freezes. And if you appreciate this type of content, leave a like right now. It helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment with your country and city. And if you've ever witnessed an act of unexpected heroism, share that too. This community is growing across the world, and your stories matter. Now back to Bobby Chen. On November 3rd, 2019, at exactly 11:47 p.m., a fire started in Lincoln Elementary School. Within 3 minutes, the main staircase collapsed. Within 5 minutes, 59 people were trapped on the second floor with no visible way out. Within 7 minutes, Bobby Chen made the first of 6 trips into hell. And by the time the sun rose the next morning, everyone would know his name. This is his story. And it's a story that will remind you what one person can do when everything is falling apart. Robert Chen was born in 1967 in a small village outside Guangzhou, China. His family immigrated to the United States when he was 9 years old, settling in Portland, Oregon. His father worked in a restaurant kitchen. His mother cleaned houses. Bobby grew up understanding one thing very clearly. Hard work was the only path forward in a country where you started with nothing. He graduated high school in 1985 with decent grades, but no money for college. Instead, he took a job at a warehouse, then a grocery store, then a hotel maintenance department. In 1995, he met Susan Martinez, a teacher at Lincoln Elementary. They married a year later. She encouraged him to apply for the janitor position at her school. "You'd be perfect," she told him. "You notice things other people miss." Bobby got the job in 2002. It wasn't glamorous. The pay was modest. The hours were lonely. He worked the night shift from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. when the building was empty and silent. But Bobby didn't mind. He liked the quiet. He liked the predictability. And most of all, he liked knowing that when the children arrived each morning, the school was clean, safe, and ready for them. Over the years, Bobby became part of the school's invisible infrastructure. He fixed broken desks that teachers never reported. He cleared clogged drains that maintenance always forgot. He kept a secret stash of supplies, tape, markers, paper, for teachers who ran out mid-lesson. Susan used to joke that Bobby knew Lincoln Elementary better than the architect who designed it. She was right. But in 2015, everything changed. Susan was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She fought for 11 months. Bobby took leave from work to care for her, but the medical bills piled up faster than he could manage. When Susan passed away in March 2016, Bobby returned to work 3 days later. Not because he was ready, because he had no choice. Their daughter Emily was starting college that fall, and Bobby had promised Susan he would make sure she graduated debt-free. After Susan's death, Bobby became even quieter. He stopped attending staff meetings. He declined invitations to school events. He simply came in at 10 p.m., worked through the night, and left at 6 a.m. before most people arrived. Teachers who tried to talk to him got polite, one-word responses. He wasn't rude. He just wasn't there anymore, not emotionally, not socially. He was a ghost moving through the hallways, doing his job and nothing more. But there was one thing Bobby never stopped doing: paying attention to details. He noticed when a fire extinguisher was expired, when a door's lock was sticking, when the electrical room emitted a faint buzzing sound that no one else seemed to hear. He reported these things, filled out forms, sent emails to the district maintenance office. Most of his concerns were ignored or delayed due to budget constraints. The school was old, repairs were expensive, and Bobby was just the janitor. On November 3, 2019, Lincoln Elementary hosted its annual Science Night, a beloved tradition where students from grades 3-5 presented their science projects to parents and community members. The event ran from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., but cleanup always took another hour. Bobby arrived at his usual time, 10 p.m., and started his routine while about 60 people were still on the second floor, wrapping up exhibits and chatting. He had reported the electrical room issue 3 times in the past 6 months. The buzzing had gotten louder. The lights in that hallway flickered. Bobby even wrote in his last report, "Potential fire hazard. Please inspect immediately." The response came 2 weeks later. Issue logged. Will address in next fiscal year budget review. That was 3 months ago. At 11:47 p.m., Bobby smelled smoke. Not the faint smoke of someone burning popcorn in the teacher's lounge. This was different. Thick, acrid, chemical. He dropped his mop in the cafeteria, grabbed his radio, and ran toward the smell. What he found in the electrical room would haunt him for the rest of his life. Flames roaring out of the wall panel, already consuming the wooden frame, spreading toward the main staircase. And above him, on the second floor, he could hear voices, laughter, children's voices. They had no idea what was happening below them. Bobby's hands shook as he grabbed the radio. "Fire in electrical room, main staircase area, second floor occupied." His voice was calm, but his heart was hammering. He could hear the fire crackling, could feel the heat radiating from just feet away. He ran to the nearest fire alarm and pulled it. The piercing sound filled the building instantly. On the second floor, the remaining families froze. Parents grabbed their children. Teachers started ushering people toward the main staircase. But when they reached the top of the stairs, they saw what Bobby had already seen from below. Flames had engulfed the lower half of the staircase. The wooden steps were collapsing. There was no way down. Panic set in immediately. Bobby reached the bottom of the staircase just as the first group of parents and children arrived at the top. Through the smoke and flames, he could see their faces. Terrified, desperate, trapped. A father was holding twin girls, maybe 7 years old. A mother was clutching a baby. A teacher was trying to count students. her voice barely audible over the fire alarm. Bobby made a split-second calculation. The fire department would take at least 8 minutes to arrive. By then, the second floor could be fully engulfed. He turned toward the emergency exit near the cafeteria. It was 30 feet away, clear, safe. He could be outside in 15 seconds. He had his radio. He could guide the fire department when they arrived. It was the rational choice. But then Bobby heard something that changed everything. A child crying for her mother. Not screaming, just crying softly, hopelessly through the smoke. The sound cut through him like a knife. Bobby made his choice. He ran away from the emergency exit. He ran toward a service door that almost no one knew existed. A narrow, rarely used staircase at the far end of the building. It was built in the 1960s for maintenance access, tucked behind a door marked custodial only. The stairs were steep, claustrophobic, and led directly to the second-floor hallway, far from the main fire. But there was a problem. The door at the top was locked from the inside, and Bobby's master key only worked from the bottom. He grabbed his ring of keys, found the one for the service door, and burst through. The staircase was narrow, barely wide enough for one person. He took the steps 2 at a time, lungs burning from the smoke that was starting to seep into every corner of the building. When he reached the top, he pounded on the door. "Open this door, now!" A teacher on the other side heard him, unlocked it, and Bobby stumbled into the second-floor hallway, coughing, eyes streaming. What he saw was chaos. 59 people, children, parents, teachers, clustered near the main staircase, which was now completely impassable. Some were trying windows, but the second floor was 20 feet above concrete. Others were calling 911, shouting into their phones that they were trapped. A few children were crying hysterically. One boy had collapsed, hyperventilating. The smoke was starting to rise from below, filling the hallway with a toxic grey haze. Bobby didn't have time to think. He cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted over the fire alarm, "Follow me! Service stairs! Move now!" But his voice was hoarse, barely audible. A teacher named Karen Ross recognized him. "That's Bobby, the janitor! Listen to him!" She started herding people toward the service door, but not everyone heard. Not everyone believed. Some parents refused to leave the main staircase, convinced the fire department would reach them there. Bobby made a decision in that moment that would define him forever. He grabbed the nearest group, a teacher and 6 children, and physically pulled them toward the service stairs. "Go down. Single file. Fast but careful. I'll be right behind you." The teacher hesitated. "What about the others?" Bobby's voice was firm, almost harsh. "I'll come back. Go, now." The first group descended. Bobby waited at the top, counting heads, making sure they reached the bottom safely. Then he turned back into the smoke-filled hallway. The fire was spreading faster now. He could hear the roar of flames below, the cracking of wood. He had maybe 10 minutes before the entire second floor became a death trap. And there were still 53 people up here. Bobby took a breath of toxic air, covered his mouth with his shirt, and ran back into the smoke to get the others. Bobby's second trip was harder. The smoke was thicker now, visibility down to a few feet. He found a mother frozen in panic, clutching 2 children unable to move. Bobby grabbed her arm. "Look at me. We're getting out. Follow my voice." He guided her to the service stairs, counted heads, 3 more saved, and sent them down. Then he turned back. The heat was unbearable now. The fire had reached the second-floor hallway, flames licking through the floorboards near the collapsed main staircase. Bobby could feel the floor shifting beneath him, could hear the groaning of stressed wood. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, but through the smoke he saw them. A cluster of children huddled against the far wall with a teacher, too terrified to move. Trip 3. Bobby crawled on his hands and knees, staying below the smoke. He reached the group, 7 children and 1 teacher. The teacher's face was black with soot, eyes wide with terror. "I can't see the door," she cried. Bobby grabbed her hand. "I know where it is. Stay low. Hold hands. Do not let go." He led them through the inferno, counting heads as they descended. 10 more saved. Trip 4. By now, the fire department had arrived outside. Bobby could hear sirens, could hear firefighters shouting, but the main staircase was gone. The windows were too high. The only way out was still the service stairs, and Bobby was the only one who knew how to find them in the smoke. He went back up. This time, a firefighter tried to stop him at the bottom. "Sir, you need to evacuate now." Bobby pushed past him. "There are people up there. I know the building. Let me work." The firefighter hesitated, then saw the determination in Bobby's eyes. He didn't stop him. Trip 4 brought down 13 people, the largest group yet. Parents carrying children, a teacher limping from smoke inhalation, a father who had twisted his ankle. Bobby guided them all, his voice steady despite his burning lungs. 33 people saved so far. 26 still trapped. Trip 5 was the worst. The floor was buckling. Parts of the ceiling had started to collapse. Bobby found the remaining families clustered near a classroom, convinced they'd be safer inside. He kicked the door open, smoke pouring in. Out. Now. If you stay, you die. His bluntness shocked them into action. 15 more people followed him through the maze of smoke and flame. 48 saved, 11 still trapped. Trip 6. Bobby was running on pure adrenaline now. His skin was covered in burns. His lungs felt like they were full of glass. His vision was blurring, but he could still hear voices on the second floor. 3 children and 2 adults, separated from the main group, trapped in a storage room at the far end of the hallway. The firefighters still couldn't reach them. The main staircase area was fully engulfed. Bobby was the last hope. He made the climb one more time. The stairs were hot to the touch now, wood groaning with every step. When he reached the top, part of the hallway ceiling collapsed behind him, cutting off his path back. He didn't stop. He found the storage room, kicked the door open, and found them. 3 terrified children, ages 6, 7, and 9, and 2 parent volunteers. "We're leaving. Now." Bobby's voice was barely a whisper, but they heard him. They followed him through what remained of the hallway, flames on both sides, the floor cracking beneath them. He led them to the service stairs, just as another section of floor collapsed, where they had been standing seconds before. They descended in darkness, Bobby's hand on the shoulder of the last child, making sure no one was left behind. When they emerged on the first floor, firefighters swarmed them immediately, pulling them outside to safety. Bobby collapsed on the grass outside the school, coughing violently, barely conscious. A paramedic rushed to him. "Sir, how many trips did you make?" Bobby tried to answer but couldn't speak. He held up 6 fingers. The paramedic's face went pale. 59 people had been on that second floor. All 59 walked out alive. 0 fatalities. Because a 52-year-old janitor made 6 trips into a burning building when every rational person would have made 0. Bobby Chen spent 3 weeks in the hospital. His lungs had suffered severe smoke inhalation. Second-degree burns covered 15% of his body. He had fractured 2 ribs during the rescues, though he couldn't remember when or how. The doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. They also told him he would never breathe the same way again. The damage to his lungs was permanent. During his hospitalization, the story exploded nationwide. News crews camped outside the hospital. Headlines read, "Hero Janitor Saves 59 Lives." Bobby's daughter, Emily, flew home from college immediately. She sat by his bedside, crying, furious and proud all at once. "Dad, you could have died," she told him. Bobby's response was barely a whisper. So could they. The families he saved visited him one by one. Parents brought their children to thank him. Teachers brought cards signed by entire classes. The mother, with twin girls, brought flowers every day for 2 weeks. The father, who had twisted his ankle, offered to pay Bobby's medical bills. Bobby refused all offers of money, embarrassed by the attention. "I just did my job," he kept saying, but everyone knew it was more than that. The school district placed Bobby on paid medical leave. They also launched an investigation into the fire. The findings were damning. The electrical room had been flagged as a fire hazard multiple times, including 3 reports filed by Bobby himself. All had been ignored or delayed due to budget constraints. The district superintendent resigned. 2 maintenance supervisors were fired. A lawsuit filed by several families was settled for an undisclosed amount. But Bobby didn't care about any of that. What haunted him were the moments he almost didn't make it. The second, when he nearly turned back on his 4th trip because the pain was too much. The instant when the ceiling collapsed behind him on his 6th trip, missing him by inches. He dreamed about it every night, the smoke, the flames, the children's voices calling for help. He woke up gasping, convinced he was still inside the burning building. 3 months after the fire, Bobby tried to return to work, but his lungs couldn't handle it. The exertion of mopping floors, climbing stairs, even walking long hallways left him breathless and coughing. His doctor recommended permanent disability retirement. Bobby resisted at first. He was only 52. He had planned to work until 65, but his body wouldn't cooperate. The fire had taken more than one night. It had taken his ability to work. The school district offered Bobby a generous retirement package, including full medical coverage and a pension. But money couldn't fix what was broken. Bobby fell into a deep depression. He felt useless. He missed Susan. He missed the routine of his job. He missed feeling like he had a purpose. Emily visited every weekend from college, worried about her father's mental state. She found him sitting in the dark, staring at nothing, trapped in his own head. Then, 6 months after the fire, something changed. A letter arrived from the mother of one of the 7-year-old twins Bobby had saved. Inside was a photo of the girls at their 8th birthday party, smiling alive. The mother had written, "Because of you, they got to have this birthday, and they'll have many more. You didn't just save their lives that night, you saved their future. Thank you doesn't feel like enough, but it's all we have. Thank you, Bobby, forever." Bobby read the letter 3 times. Then he cried for the first time since Susan's death. Emily found him holding the photo, tears streaming down his face. "They're alive, Em," he whispered. "All of them. They're alive." That moment became the turning point. Bobby started seeing a therapist. He joined a support group for first responders and survivors. He slowly began to accept that what he had done mattered, even if it cost him everything. Over the next year, Bobby received dozens more letters, photos of children's graduations, birthdays, holidays. Parents wrote to tell him about milestones their kids reached because Bobby gave them the chance. One father wrote, "My daughter just learned to ride a bike, such a normal small thing. But she wouldn't be here to learn it if not for you." Bobby kept every letter, every photo, every card. They became his lifeline, the proof that his pain had purpose. Today, in 2025, Bobby Chen is 58 years old. He lives in a small apartment in Portland, not far from Lincoln Elementary. His health is fragile. The lung damage means he tires easily, and he's on oxygen most of the time. He can't work, he can't run. Some days, even walking to the mailbox leaves him breathless. But he's alive. And more importantly, so are 59 other people. Lincoln Elementary was rebuilt in 2021. The new building has state-of-the-art fire suppression systems, multiple stairwells, and strict safety protocols. And in the main lobby, there's a bronze plaque with Bobby's face and the names of everyone he saved that night. Students pass it every day. Teachers use it as a teaching moment about courage and selflessness. Bobby has visited the school a few times, but he finds it difficult. The memories are still too raw. Emily graduated college in 2020, debt-free, just as Bobby had promised Susan. She's now a social worker, helping immigrant families navigate the system. Inspired, she says, by watching her father quietly help people his whole life without asking for recognition. She visits Bobby every Sunday. They cook dinner together, watch old movies, and talk about Susan. Emily knows her father struggles, but she also knows he would make the same choice again. The families Bobby saved have stayed connected. They formed a group they call the 59, a network of people bound by the night. One man refused to let them die. They meet once a year on November 3rd at the rebuilt school to honor Bobby. He attends when his health allows. The children he saved, now teenagers, take turns thanking him. Some of them barely remember that night, but their parents will never forget. One of those children, Madison Porter, one of the 7-year-old twins, is now a high school freshman. She wants to be a firefighter. She credits Bobby with inspiring her. He wasn't trained for this, she told a local news crew in 2024. He wasn't supposed to be a hero, but he was. And if a janitor can save 59 people, then maybe I can save some too. When Bobby heard about her career plans, he cried. Bobby's story has been told countless times. News articles, documentaries, a made-for-TV movie that Bobby refused to participate in because he said it sensationalized what was just him doing the right thing. He was offered book deals, speaking engagements, endorsement contracts. He turned them all down. I'm not a hero, he insists to this day. I'm just a man who had a set of keys and a choice. Anyone would have done the same. But that's not true. Not everyone would have gone back. Not everyone would have made 6 trips. Not everyone would have chosen 59 strangers over their own safety. And that's exactly why Bobby Chen is a hero, even if he refuses to accept the title. In 2023, the governor of Oregon awarded Bobby the state's highest civilian honor, the Oregon Medal of Valor. Bobby attended the ceremony in a wheelchair, oxygen tank at his side, Emily pushing him. The governor shook his hand and said, "You represent the best of humanity. When faced with impossible choices, you chose others." Every single time, Bobby's response, barely audible, was simple. I couldn't leave them behind. The families of the 59 have set up a fund to help cover Bobby's medical expenses and ensure he lives comfortably. They raised over $400,000 in the first year. Bobby initially refused, embarrassed, but Emily convinced him to accept. "Let them give back to you, Dad. You gave them everything." So he did. And now, those monthly deposits let Bobby live without financial stress, a small comfort in the difficult years that followed that terrible night. Bobby doesn't talk much about November 3rd, 2019. When reporters ask, he gives short, polite answers and changes the subject. But sometimes, on quiet evenings, he looks at the photos on his wall. Photos of children who are alive, families who are whole, futures that exist. Because one night he decided that 59 lives were worth more than his own comfort, his own safety, his own future. And in a world that often forgets the quiet people who keep things running, Bobby Chen proved something unforgettable. Heroes don't need capes or badges or training. Sometimes all they need is a set of keys, a deep knowledge of the building, and a refusal to walk away when others need them most. This is the true story of Robert Bobby Chen, a 52-year-old school janitor who made 6 trips into a burning building and saved 59 lives. The fire at Lincoln Elementary in Portland, Oregon on November 3rd, 2019 is well documented. The names have been changed to protect privacy, but the core facts remain. 1 man, 6 trips, 0 fatalities. A miracle born from courage, knowledge, and an unwillingness to let others die. Bobby Chen lives with permanent lung damage and will never fully recover physically from that night. But he also lives knowing that because of his actions, 59 people got to see the next day. Children grew up, parents went home to their families, teachers continued to teach, all because one man refused to take the easy way out. If you ever meet someone who seems invisible, the janitor, the clerk, the maintenance worker, remember Bobby Chen. Because heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear name tags and carry mops. And sometimes, when it matters most, they're the only ones who know the way out. Remember his name, remember his choice, and remember that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and doing it anyway.